Clara sets the final place at the dining table when Victor slams a folded hospital bill onto the polished wood. Eva freezes mid-step in the doorway, eyes darting between the numbers and the cracked smile she's worn for years. Milo, carrying a toolbox, stops short, fingers tightening on the handle. "This was never paid," Victor says, voice low enough that only Clara can hear how thin it is. The paper trembles against his palm. In the silence, the chandelier light catches a smear of ink that wasn't there before. Clara leans over the table, smoothing the linen runner with the practiced motion of someone who has made ritual out of keeping chaos at bay. Her thumb catches the edge of a napkin, folding it just so, then reaches for the chipped pitcher of water that waits by the folded bill. Victor's voice, quiet, flat, has already drifted back toward the hallway. But she feels the tremor in his bones through the table. She sets the pitcher down, then turns to the small kitchen counter where Eva has begun sorting the morning medications into labeled trays. "Milo, can you grab the Phillips?" Eva calls without looking up, her tone soft enough to not break the fragile calm. Milo sticks his head through the doorway, toolbox tucked under his arm. "2 minutes," he says, and there's a slow confidence in the way he settles the box beside the fridge before leaning in to inspect the brittle cabinet hinges. Clara slides the bowls onto the table, each one catching the chandelier light. She pours tea into the teapot, steam curling in a delicate spiral. As the liquid warms the room, she watches Eva carefully align the blister packs, and Victor retreat with the hospital bill still buzzing in his pocket. Clara's hands move on, quietly, the routine a tether that keeps the rest of them steady enough to do the next thing. She smooths Victor's blanket, pressing the family photo album flat against the armrest so the pages won't flutter as her hand keeps his shoulders steady. She refills his oxygen, her fingers twisting the mask into place, while the ambulance bill remains face down where she left it, a quiet anchor to the fragile rhythm she's trying to hold. "Was that dizziness again?" "I'm fine. Don't make a fuss, Clara." Victor's hand twitches, dragging the family photo album down as he topples sideways off the recliner, the blanket slipping from his shoulder. Clara's shoulders stiffen, eyes widening as the album slams to the floor, fingers immediately trembling over the phone as if silence were a fragile shield. Through Clara's eyes, the clipboard holds the ambulance bill, the $12,000 total stamped due in 5 days. The red ink matching the urgent stillness that has kept her from speaking. Is there any way we can stretch that deadline just a little more time? Policy says payment in 5 days, or we discharge him. Clara Reyes's shoulders slump deeper, her fingers lingering on the unforgiving number as if the weight could be lifted from the paper itself. Her jaw tightens, eyes fixed forward, the silence around her growing heavier with each slow exhale. Eva Morales lays the house keys down with a careful, measured motion, then abruptly shoves them toward Clara as the vibration rattles the table. Her fingers snap the family photo album open, slamming it flat to reveal a page of smiling siblings before she lets her hand hover there like a verdict. "Sell the home, Clara, and you cover whatever the bill doesn't. Your silence kept us afloat, so handle this. I can't keep carrying this without anyone even admitting what I'm giving up." Clara's shoulders tighten, fingers curling white-knuckled around the edge of her chair as her gaze drops to the floor. Her jaw clenches, breath hitching as if to hold back a sob that would break the quiet she'd carefully kept. "Clara, my silence has hidden every sacrifice and felt like emotional abuse. Can we at least admit that?" "Eva, we don't have time for that. Pay the bill and stay quiet before everything collapses." Clara's shoulders sag, eyes flicking to the mantel clock as her fingers twitch against her knee. The pulse in her throat, a drumbeat of suppressed panic. Clara flips the hospital bill notice over, fingers tracing the worn spine before slamming it onto the coffee table. the impact rattling the untouched bank ledger and inheritance folder. Can we walk through every debt, every bill, and find another answer besides forcing me to eat the rest? Selling the house covers it. Your silence is what keeps us afloat. Milo Reyes's jaw clenches. Then a cold smirk flits across his face as he shifts his weight back into the couch. Clara yanks the inheritance folder toward herself, fingers trembling over the worn edge. She drags the bank ledger free, the pages whispering as she forces it open and slams it down, spine cracking, numbers exposed beneath her shaking grip. Through Clara's eyes, the bank ledger lies open to the $30,000 withdrawal penciled, Daniela, Jose Rescue Investment. The looping margin note twisting like a dare about who she's supposed to save next. Clara Reyes, this is our inheritance. Why was 30 grand funneled to Jose's restaurant? Daniela, you were supposed to keep this between us. We needed that money and you wouldn't understand. Daniela's jaw clenches, knuckles whitening on the ledger's edge as her shoulders stiffen. She stares past Clara, eyes narrowed, refusing to meet the accusation head-on. Clara lifts the hospital bill notice, fingers trembling as she holds it level so the heavy numbers are exposed to everyone. Her arm wavers, then she jabs a finger at the total, the paper shivering as if matching her sudden constriction of breath. She draws back slightly, the notice still in her grasp, shoulders tensing as her eyes dart back toward the others. Let me show you the statements so we can trace every withdrawal before we assume the house sale solves everything. Enough. Marco already gambled away our father's retirement. Airing this just invites scandal. Milo Reyes's jaw tightens, shoulders rising as he steps closer, hand hovering to halt the gesture. Clara, if the statements show everything, then it's not just my burden anymore. We either face it together or let the house sale lie in vain. Daniela, betray us and you'll ruin everything. We'll keep quiet to save the family honor. Clara Reyes's shoulders stiffen, breath hitching as her fingers press harder into the damp folder. Her gaze snaps upward, eyes blazing with a hard, tremulous resolve. Clara yanks the top drawer, forcing it open before it snaps back shut, then slams her palm down to sweep aside the scattered files and reach into the wood. Her fingers catch the seam of the false bottom. She pries it wide with a hiss of splintered varnish and drags the hidden leather journal into the morning light. Through Clara's eyes, the first entry in Victor's hidden leather journal, in his precise slanted script, lays out how he intended her to inherit the house, while Victor kept the siblings at arm's length. Clara's hands clench so tight the journal trembles, shoulders rising as if bracing for impact. Her lips press thin while the light in her eyes hardens. Clara slides the journal aside, fingertips scraping the underside of her father's desk lid until they find the taped folder. Then she peels it free and pulls out the crisp, notarized papers, shoulders rising before settling into a steadier set. The beam of light strips dust away from the notarized power of attorney and deed. Victor's steady signature beside the notary seal declaring Clara both the family home's owner and the holder of lasting medical power of attorney long before his collapse. Clara Reyes's jaw tightens, breath slipping out in a slow exhale as her fingers curl around the edge of the desk, eyes fixed on the illuminated documents. Clara shoves aside the brittle pile of bills, revealing the dusty cassette labeled, "For Clara," and lifts it with a shake that steadies as she slides it into the battered player. She presses the triangle button with trembling fingers, jaw tightening, shoulders squared. Mom, was this really the bargain? We promised your silence was the price of our peace, Clara. No one questioned it before you started seeing the cracks. Clara Reyes's grip on the desk tightens until her knuckles blanch, tears streaming as her whole body trembles with the weight of the betrayal. Clara yanks the hidden leather journal, notarized power of attorney and deed, and the cassette tape plugged into the battered player from the false bottom drawer, pressing them together so none can slip free. She presses the bundle to the desk as if pinning it there, then shoves the drawer closed with a slam that makes the whole study shudder. Clara Reyes stands in the study as the tape's hiss dies, the silence swelling around her like acknowledgement that the martyr she once was is gone. Clara Reyes's jaw clenches, her eyes harden, and she straightens before striding away with resolute steps. Clara lifts Victor's journal from the couch cushion, slides it toward Milo, and lays Eva's recorded promise beside it. Fingers lingering on the worn spine before she straightens, shoulders tightening. You saw what Victor wrote about me. You promised to keep me silent. We did it for him. Please, don't tear him apart now. Then keep paying it, Clara. Victor's name is already on that bill, and letting it out would do more than hurt you. Clara Reyes sits, the silence between breaths stretching like the weight she refuses to name. Through Clara's gaze, the hospital bill envelope gapes open on the coffee table. The due date circled in red, the same frantic notation Victor's journal repeats under, "Pay now or expose everything." Milo's jaw tightens as his shoulders slump, fingers pressing into the armrest. His eyes flick to the bill, then back to Clara, breath hitching in a sharp, helpless exhale. I can keep absorbing it all, letting you stay protected while the betrayal continues. Or I can expose it and face whatever comes. Then you destroy him. Destroy us. I destroyed myself, keeping silent. I choose accountability. Through Clara's gaze, the bank ledger lies open, its columns of red-inked ambulance rides and mortgage transfers proving the months she alone kept the house afloat. Clara, these numbers show every ambulance, every mortgage, every hospital bill I paid alone while you were planning to sell the house. Milo, you're stirring him up, Clara. Victor wanted peace, not this reckoning. Eva Morales squeezes the table so hard her knuckles blanch, breath hitching as the weight of Clara's proof settles over her like a vice. Clara Reyes slides the legal documents and power of attorney papers toward the center, thumb resting along the edge like a marker of her new claim, then lifts the small recorder with mother's tape still humming, her hand steady as she angles it for playback. Victor signed these because he trusted me, and your promise on that tape proves you knew how you were pinning me into silence. You twisted that promise. Everyone knew you'd keep the books because no one else would. Clara slides the mother's tape into the player and slams the lid shut, jaw tightening as the machine begins to whir. She presses the play button with a deliberate thumb, letting the crackle fill the room. Victor's journal lies open to the page where the words, "Onjar," I asked them to let Clara carry the weight, stare back, the faded ink a cold tally of every choice laid at her feet. Do you still stand by what you wrote here? I do. I watched you die under their comfort, and I won't let them do it again. Milo Reyes flinches, shoulders constricting before slumping as his eyes drop to the table, and his fingers curl around the edge. Clara pushes the bank ledger toward the center, spreading the pages and tapping each mortgage line with her fingertip before resting her palm flat. She flips open the legal documents, smoothing the therapy appointment page with both hands, then tears a strip of mother's tape and presses it across the spine of Victor's journal, turning it into a rotating caregiving calendar. I failed to step up. Give me the mortgage paperwork and I'll cover my share, and I'll finally sit in therapy with Eva. Then we practice this together. No more secrets. Eva Morales' shoulders sag, fingers tightening around the edge of the chair as tears blur her vision. Her breath shudders, then steadies into a quiet nod, the weight of the unspoken promise visible in the trembling line of her jaw. Clara sets the recorder on the kitchen counter, pressing play. Milo's voice fills the room, not protesting now, but counting out afternoons he will take Victor for walks. The therapy app on his tablet blinking. Next, physical. Eva, standing beside him, brushes Clara's forearm with a grateful thumb before picking up the inheritance folder, now labeled Investment for Victor's Care, and tucks it into the drawer with a quiet nod. Clara exhales, the first long breath that's not punctuated by a new crisis, and pushes open the slider to the backyard. Light spills across the concrete where Victor's garden bench sits empty, but the raised beds are full of seedlings. Milo's fingerprints still in the soil. Outside, Mara, who finally keeps house calls now instead of hiding them, lifts a crate of tomatoes she promised to deliver to the seniors' pantry. Clara steps out, carrying Victor's journal and the ledger together, and lays them gently on the bench. She smiles at the sun warming the pages, then turns toward the family, letting them step into the weight she's carried for so long.